Hey guys, this is Ike's RolloutReviews with RolloutReviews, bringing you another BIONICLE review. This time it is set number 8556, the Boxor. This set was released in 2002 and contains about 157 pieces. As the Bohrok began to ravage Motunui, each of the Toa fought tirelessly to protect their people and their home. While any of the Toa could decommission a handful of Bohrok on their own, they were only 6 in number, and it was difficult for them to reach all corners of the island. Worse still, without Toa there to defend them, even working in groups, Matoran villagers struggled to put up much of a fight against the swarms. A horde of Galak flooded into Onukoro and commenced an attack on the subterranean village. Despite their efforts, the Onumatoran were unable to push the Bohrok back and realized very quickly the only option was retreat. Onipu and Taipu led the evacuation, but failed to escape the caves themselves while trying to help one last villager, Nuparu, to safety. The 3 Matoran were now trapped underground. Nothing but an incapacitated Galak missing its Krana, and the wreckage of their fallen village to keep them company. Onipu and Taipu frantically began to dig their way to safety, but even if they were able to break through, all that waited for them beyond the rubble was more Bohrok to whom they didn't stand a chance. At first they thought Nuparu was simply refusing to contribute to the escape effort, but they soon realized the genius Matoran engineer had taken out his tools and was already starting to dismantle the left-behind Bohrok shell. Under Nuparu's guidance, the 3 Onumatoran worked together using whatever they could find inside the cavern to rebuild the robot into a powerful vehicle, the Boxor. Piloting his new invention, Nuparu was able to burst through the rubble to safety, defending Onipu and Taipu from Bohrok on their way out. Long story short, basically, Nuparu is Tony Stark. Later, with the help from the other villages, Nuparu was able to mass-produce the Boxor, allowing the Matoran to finally defend the villages on their own, without the aid of a Toa. Story time's over. Now let's take a look at the actual set, starting with the included figure, Nuparu. For the most part, he's the same as all of the other Tohunga or Mictoran from 2001, however he does have a couple of key differences. First, his color scheme is not quite as uniform as any of the others. His mask does not match his feet, but that's not necessarily a bad thing, as I think the 3 colors he does have work really well with each other. Second, the set does not include a bamboo throwing disc. However, Nuparu is compatible with any extras you might have, like this one from Onipu. It'll still fit on his back, and he is still able to throw it. So it's nice that there is that external playability. Last but not least, you will notice that he has 2 of the same arm. He has 2 right throwing arms, whereas all of the other Tohunga have a throwing arm and a punching arm. It gets even weirder when we take a look at the Boxor itself, and I have a couple of theories as to exactly why this is the way it is, but I'll touch on that a little bit later. The Boxor certainly is a thing. We'll start by judging it strictly as far as it looks, and then we'll take a look at the play functions later. But as far as it looks, it's super weird. And not the good kind of weird either. It has these things sticking off of the front, and this strange cranial attachment. I don't know why a vehicle like this would need something like that outside of maybe enemy intimidation? Even then, I'm not so sure. The Bohrok headplate also very loosely attaches, and granted, when you do put a Tohunga inside, it nullifies the problem. The back of their head keeps it in place, but without a pilot, it just sort of flaps around, and that is mildly annoying. As far as the rest of it goes, the arms just sort of sit really far back in an awkward way, and the legs are dumb and stumpy. The rest of the body is just a mess of gears and other Technic parts, and if you couldn't tell by now, I'm not a big fan. It's not all bad though. I think the golly hooks are a really nice addition, and I really like the tubes on the arms and legs. They're very simple, but definitely add a lot to the design. Last but not least, the tohunga punching arm towards the back gives the rear a very nice shape. It almost looks like a spine. But it definitely begs the question, why, if this set includes a punching arm, does Nuparu have 2 throwing arms? My best guess is that they screwed up somewhere in the design process. Instead of giving us 2 punching arms, they gave us 2 throwing arms and then never corrected the mistake. I don't know if that's exactly what happened, but that's what I like to think happened, and it certainly doesn't change my opinion that this set just looks and feels lazy. Everything aesthetically on the Boxor is sacrificed for the gimmicks. And if I'm honest, it's almost worth it. The first play feature comes from the simple fact that the Boxor, by nature of design, is essentially a mecha vehicle. And what's not to love about that? To access the cockpit, or lack thereof, you're meant to pull back the tohunga arm and swing this top section towards the rear. I advise you be extremely careful during this step, as I've heard horror stories of this particular part stressing or cracking or flat out falling apart. If you're in the market for this set secondhand, definitely keep a lookout and ask questions to make sure that this piece is in good condition. It also goes without saying that you shouldn't pull it too far back, as you might risk breaking it yourself. Now, when you bring this section back, this sort of flops around just like it did at the front if you tip it upside down. Just for the sake of tidiness, what I like doing is sort of wedging it in one of the grooves on the tohunga arm. I don't think I'm gonna display it like this ever, but it just keeps it out of the way. Now, to put the pilot in place, basically you're going to tilt the tohunga back, fit this harness piece here between their legs, and then drop them down. Just the way it's designed, there is no way for the tohunga to fall out without pushing them backwards, which is why when you bring this section forwards, it pushes forward on the back of their head and doesn't allow that. It's actually a fairly genius and pretty secure mounting method. That's something I actually really like about this set. Unfortunately, while it looks a bit more complete with a pilot in place, I don't think the Boxor really looks any better. Mainly because we're meant to believe that Nuparu here is piloting this thing. And I just don't see how. He's just kind of hanging off of the front. I guess these Bohrok teeth are meant to be some kind of control system, but his hands don't come anywhere near them. I think it would have been a bit better and maybe made even more sense if this head plate was flipped all the way around and became kind of a visor or windshield for the pilot. But as is, I'm still not entirely convinced. Now, the second play function is so much fun and basically the sole reason this set exists. The whole thing is designed around a single primary feature, and that is to box. By pressing down and collapsing the feet, you're able to launch the arms forward, just like that. Taking a closer look, there are a couple of lift arms and a rubber band, and by collapsing one of the feet, it twists a gear in the center, which in turn twists this gear, and then that up top swings this entire assembly forward. It works really, really well. Of course, by pressing in the center, you're able to launch both of the arms at once, but also by pressing left and right, you're able to launch the arms individually. This also simulates sort of a walking motion, which is also all kinds of fun in and of itself. This gimmick is extremely satisfying, and I enjoy playing with it much more than I thought I ever would. I might go so far as to say that this function alone is so good, it almost makes up for the majority of the problems I have with the set as a whole. After all, this is practically all the model was ever built to do, and it does it extremely well. You're also able to remove one or both of the rubber bands to offset or permanently deploy the arms for display. Personally, I prefer to have this guy up on the shelf with both of the rubber bands on one side for storage and have him punching dynamically like this. This is probably the best way possible to display this set.
Nuparu was able to build this in a cave with a box of scraps.
And it sure looks like it. From a story perspective, you could argue that's the point. The set is meant to look thrown together using limited resources. But I don't buy that. The designers just left it looking goofy and unfinished, and that's how it is. I think the base idea is excellent, and functionally, it's a lot of fun. The set just falls short aesthetically, and I can't help but feel there might have been a better way for the designers to balance the looks and the gimmick. But maybe that's just me. If you like the way the Boxor looks yourself, it's definitely one to consider. If you don't like the way it looks, I think it's fairly easy to push past the visual design and enjoy the set for its play features alone. But even then, unless you're a fan of Nuparu as a character, I'm not sure it's necessary. The prices this set generally goes for online make it hard to recommend, and unless you're able to find a good deal, it's probably not worth hunting down. So that is about it, guys, and this is IX Roll at IX, signing off.